Hey, this is Anthony Cesari with SuccessForYourSongs.com, and in this video we're going to be looking at a cool melody writing trick that you can use next time you're writing a song. If you ever get stuck about what to do with your melodies, one thing that you can do is analyze how an existing melody works so that you can use those same ideas in your own music. You'll basically be looking at the existing melody as a map that you can use for your own melodic ideas. Now, obviously, you're not going to be copying an existing melody. They're copyrightable, and you just don't want to be doing that anyway. But you can take a look at the overall melodic concepts that are being applied to the melody and use those in a melody that you're writing so that you know where to go with it throughout your song and throughout your sections. And then once you have that map, then you can write your own melody different from the original one, but has sort of the same overall concept to it. Or you can stray from that concept that the song you're referencing uses as well, if that suits what you're going to be writing better. But let's take a look at how we can do that. Now we want to understand what the melodic motifs are doing in the song that we're going to be referencing and analyzing. As an example, let's say we're looking at the song Living on a Prayer by Bon Jovi. This is how I would mark up the verse of that song. I'll put a link to that song below so that you can follow along. Now, if you're not sure what a melodic motif is, it's something I talk about in other lessons and newsletter issues, but just as a quick version of it, it's basically a line of melody. Then sometimes it gets repeated again, and then sometimes it's repeated and slightly changed. You could have a motif as a line in a song or a melodic line in a song, and then it could either simply get repeated as is, or it can keep a lot of its essence and then slightly change a little bit. So it's still part of that same motif, but it changes a little. And you'll see that clearly if you follow along with this Bon Jovi example. So in this Bon Jovi example here, I've listed out all of the first lines of the song from the verse. I've just used the first two words of each line to indicate what line it is we're actually talking about. And those lyrics will correspond to the melody that we're talking about on this sheet. We're going to call the first line of the song, which is Tommy Used to Work on the Docks, we're going to call that motif number 1. Now, the second and third lines of the song are based on that same motif melodically, but the difference is these two lines only use a shortened part of that first melodic motif that we heard. So I made note of that on my worksheet by calling it 1A dash shortened. So basically I'm saying that it's based on the first motif, but with that A, I'm noting that it's altered and I'm mentioning that it's shortened so that I know what they're doing in the song with the melody. So if you click the link below for this song on YouTube, you can hear that in the example, how those second two lines are just a shortened version of the original line. And as far as the next two lines after that, you can probably argue that they're an extension of the motif from the previous line, but to me they're different enough that I'll consider them their own motif. So I'll call that melodic motif number 2, as I've shown in this markup here, and take note that the line "so tough" is different from the line "it's tough" that precedes it melodically. This has nothing to do with the lyrics. So melodically, it's a little bit modified. And again, I'm going to call that next line, the "so tough" line 2A, so that I know it's based on the line before it, but it's still a little bit different. And then after we hear that first motif, and then that motif 1A, then motif 2 and 2A, then that whole system repeats itself. So I'm going to make note of that on my markup as well by just repeating all of that information in the lines below. So on this page, I'm also encouraging you to write down note patterns, vocal range, rhythm, and the starting beat of each motif to help you understand them better. So for example, if you look at the first motif in Living on a Prayer, you'll see that I've made note that the pattern is a zigzag pattern, since the notes start high, then go low, then come back up again, and then go down again. Other patterns that could potentially present themselves would be ascending, where all the notes go up, descending, where they all go down, single note, where you have multiple notes, but they're all on the same pitch, like you just have an A repeated, for example, or a C repeated. You can also have an arch pattern where the notes start low, go high, and then get low again. Or you can have an inverted arch where they start high, get low, and then get high. But here,
we're looking at the zigzag pattern because they start high, get low, get high, and then get low again. So that's the kind of thing you should be looking to make note of in that note pattern column. Now you can also include the actual notes used if you'd like, if that helps you understand the melody better, because that's really what this sheet is all about. It's helping you understand the song that you're analyzing. But really for this section, including the shape and the motif is probably enough to get you to understand the melody's behavior. But if you're comfortable listing out all the notes so that you can see what the whole melody is doing, by all means do that. In the vocal range column, I've made a note that on the first line, the vocal range is mid, since that seems to be where it fits in Bon Jovi's voice. Now again, I could have made a note of the actual notes being sung here if I wanted to get more technical, and you can totally do that if that's what you're comfortable with, and if that's what you feel helps you understand the song. But again, the main point of this exercise is to understand how the notes used in each particular motif relate to the other motifs and the other sections. So the way I did it here works for me and helps me to understand what's happening in the song if I lay it out this way. But again, if you need to see the notes in order to understand where they're falling and how they relate to each other, then please do that. Now I also have a rhythm column here. And I can do the same thing in the rhythm column by writing down the actual note lengths being used, like eighth notes, quarter notes, etc. Or I can simply note the rhythm the way I did in this example. And again, I'm just looking to understand the rhythm of the motif because I want to know what's happening as it's changing from one motif to the next. I want to be able to look at this page and see how those changes are happening. That's really what you want to keep in mind when you're doing this. How are changes happening in this song? That's what you need to be able to see by listing things out on this sheet. And then finally, in the last column, I'll make a note of the beat that each motif starts on. Changing the starting beat of your melodic motif from section to section is usually a pretty good, although less thought of, way to change the sounds of your motifs in each section of your song. So you do want to know when that occurs.
All right, so I hope that information helps. If you're looking for ways to improve your songwriting, you can download our free cheat sheet. So just click right on the screen for that. Also, if you haven't yet subscribed to our YouTube channel, in order to get updated on all of our latest songwriting videos, you can tap this button on the screen here. And I'll also have links for that stuff below this video. So thanks again for checking this out. I'll talk to you in the next one. Take care.